So, forgive me, I'm going to be like this, for real. Okay. So, I'm a big Anyone But Me fan, and I got the honor of moderating this panel with these lovely people. We have Cesa Ward, and Rachael Hip-Flores, and Nicole Pacent. Also, so, writer-director, Vivian, Aster, awesome. So, I guess I wanted to start off by saying, from the moment I first saw this series, the very first literal seconds where I heard Vivian's voice and saw that two-shot, I knew the series would ruin me. I knew it. It absolutely did. I cried, I laughed, it was more than I ever anticipated. So, I wanted to know from you guys, when you first, am I still on the mic? Okay. When you first got on the show, when you first started working and workshopping it and everything, did you know that it would be something that even 10 years later we'd still be talking about?
And I really don't need any amplification for my voice, so this is going to be interesting for all of you. I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. I feel like when we sat around Susan's kitchen, living room, what do we want to call that? You know, it's her adjacent room, the breakfast room. She's a beautiful person.
She's very classy.
Yes. So we were sitting around there, and we had done a read through, and we kind of all looked around at each other and were like, I think this is special. I think that we have something here. But at that time, in 2008, web was such uncharted territory. No one had any idea what was going on. And people, even coming out of college, you'd say I'm doing a web series, and people were like, what is that? So I don't know that any of us really saw this longevity, but I do feel like that seed was planted from the beginning of ooh, we got something.
So I auditioned, and I think my mom asked me, she was like, oh, so is it a play or a movie? And I was like, I'm not sure. So yeah, web was new, and I don't really think any of us knew, certainly we didn't, maybe you did, have any idea what it would turn into. And I think after that first read-through, I felt like there was such an energy among the cast and among the writers and Susan and Tina who created it, and Steve. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Steve, yeah, he was there. And so that felt very special, because that's, you sort of get into these things where it's like, all right, you have a read through and you say hi and bye, and then you never see anyone else again. And I think after sort of meeting everyone and interacting, we all sort of felt like, oh, okay, this feels a bit like a family. And that was the thing that felt special about it. So I'm glad we've been able to do it for 10 years.
I guess because that whole time Susan and I were just, at first trying to figure out how to pay for it. So my brain wasn't like, oh, this is good. My brain was like, how am I going to pay for this? But yeah, I had never done anything episodic, and I had come from the film world, and I luckily got Susan on board, and Susan didn't know anything about web series, and I didn't know much about web series. And the funny thing with Susan is that she's kind of come from the studio world, and she's used to everything being in development forever. And I'm like, no, we're going to shoot in a couple of months. She goes, what? How are we going to do that? I'm like, we're just going to plan it, and we're going to go shoot it. And so for her, it was really liberating to be on something independent where we decided when we wanted to shoot and would go out and shoot it. But definitely, I think when we got the cast together, we were really, really excited about who we got together, and was amazed that we had such a great cast for our little show. So yeah, it's amazing that 10 years later, people are still finding the show.
Here we go. Okay, so, do you want to use this one?
Yeah, do we want to?
Yeah.
It's
long. Hello? Hi.
Go ahead and
Talking it? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. So, speaking about it was trying to get the money and trying to shooting was a shorter production. It seemed like the season, there's 3 seasons to the show, and it was over 4 years. There's a lot changed on just the production of the show from that very first episode to the last episode. So can you speak to what what was it like just to go from, I guess it seemed like it was like really indie, now we're kind of like running around, to like full-blown production, we got hair, makeup, we got it all. What was that like?
Well, I mean, it comes with us getting love from the show, so it really comes down to the fans that it really helped make it better as it went along because people started recognizing it and who we had a wonderful angel, Lita Orzek, who pretty much paid for the whole show. And she loved it, and every time she kept seeing episodes, she's like, go make more. And we bring her to, in the first season, we bring her to, and she's like, I love it, make more. And then we'd go make 2 more, and then she goes, I love it, go make more. And we make 2 more. And so then season 2, we sat down with her and said, so you seem to like it. So what do you say that we know what season 2, that we're gonna have a certain amount of episodes and we can go on and fully go and do that. And so luckily we have that ability to go and do season 2, knowing that we have the money to do season 2 and to really plan out and know what all those episodes are gonna be. And then we did a little crowdfunding before there was crowdfunding. We did our little webathon and all of that stuff. And that raised, I think, $35,000. And then we did just a quick little money we raised from emails that we sent out, I think, for the final episode, which brought in about $10,000, and then we had money from that. So I just attribute the fact that it started to look better to the fact that fans started to love it more and more, and everybody recognized it and was like, oh wow, people love your show, we're going to give you more money to do it. So.
Okay, so you mentioned the crowdfunding thing. You guys had these awesome videos where you had different actors and things speaking about the show, and then was crowdfunding before crowdfunding. So it's kind of like you guys are pioneers in more than one area. Not only were you like one of the first web series, like way before Carmela was anybody's thought of anything, but you kind of like also started Indiegogo and Kickstarter. So good job, guys. Totally invented it right here. So you said that it's because of the love of the fans is why the show got to keep going. Why do you think people loved this show so much? Like, what was it about it? I mean, I could possibly check out why over there, but I mean, what are your opinions on why people like the show?
You start.
Oh, hi. Oh man. What I mean, in a lot of ways, like, what's not to like? I can say, thank you. I can say that I think probably why the show was successful in part was the same reason that I auditioned for the show, which is that I wrote them a very passionate, theater kid email. I was right out of college, and I was like, oh my god, I read the breakdown. It's me. I need to come in and do this. And what I said in it, honestly, was just that it's a show that I wish I had when I was younger. And I strongly felt that way. And the L Word had just ended, so there was really that lull of oh, we need content, and seeing that this was about teenagers, and it was reflective of things that I personally had gone through in my own coming out process, and I think that so many of us connected with the material for that reason. It was we were seeing ourselves, and we were seeing ourselves as young people. And I feel to that point, we had MySpace? That dates me. But we had MySpace, be hey, are you queer too? Let's meet up 2 hours away. So it was so cool to have something where it was we were all sharing that space. So I think that was a huge part of it. Yeah.
I connected to it because I feel obviously it's specific to the LGBTQ, but I also I saw in it the universal themes. I feel we've all been teenagers, we've all felt extremely awkward about literally everything. And for me, I feel I understood what it was to feel unworthy of expressing your love. And that's what I felt, that's what I got out of it, that's what connected to me. And I feel most people feel that way at some point in their lives. And so it's a part of growing up. It's very tender, and it's very precious, and it's very real. So I think it sort of appealed. I think it appealed to people on that level.
So speaking about the accurate portrayal of basically like teenage life and things, I feel like Aster and Vivian kissed and made out more than pretty much every other ship I've ever seen in life. And that was really revolutionary. If you, for those who still remember 2008, who were there, yeah, like I remember certain other shows. They were here. On certain other shows, but Aster, they were all in it. And I feel like that. I mean, we laughed at that because it meant for me personally. Like, it meant a lot. I'm like, wait a minute, they're not like in the shadows somewhere. Oh my God, they're real teenagers kissing. It's weird. Oh my gosh, it's a thing. So how important was it? Do you feel like, especially you, Tina, like to actually accurately portray how real teenagers behave? Like most LGBT teenagers are, of course, just teenagers. They don't go hide off in a corner somewhere. They're not just holding hands in the back going, hey, let's put up that. You know what show I'm talking about. Love them too, but oh my. Creators are here, please forgive me, listeners are here. But how important was it to actually show them being normal teens and just behaving like normal teens? Was that something that you consciously thought of, or was it just like, did it organically come as you were making it?
Well, I think for Susan and I, it organically came since, we're both lesbians. So I feel as if it was basically, we're like, well, this is just what happens. And so to me, it wasn't like, oh, we can't show it. I'm like, well, that's what happens. So let's show it. So I think it was never, ever off the table like that. It was, it was going to happen always. And I think we were a little bit more gun shy about actual seeing them have sex because they were teenagers, and so that was always like, I'm always like, but they're teenagers. It's like, they're not really teenagers, but they're teenagers on the show. So sometimes there was like, if you look in the early seasons, they certainly had like their camisoles on, I think in episode 4, but then like we got later on where we're like, and these two were always way in it. They were like, all right, well, yeah, let's get, so we... And Rachael Hip-Flores is the most enthusiastic. I remember when we were doing in season 2, we were doing the first episode, which is the fantasy episode. I remember we were in the bathroom, and
oh, right.
And I basically was just like, I just let you guys go first. I never like touch her here, touch her there. I just kind of want to see where they go. And then we did one take, and I know you were good, but you were a little more shy about it.
Aww.
Rachel, do you want me to tell the story? You tell the story.
Okay.
You tell.
All right, look, this is what happened. All right. I am a straight human being, okay? My fiance's in the back over there. You can see him. We've been shooting Anyone But Me for like, a year and a half? And all of a sudden, in this makeout, like this bathroom makeout scene, during what we did a first take, and I was like, oh, and I go to Tina, and I'm like, I can touch her boob.
It was a little more enthusiastic. She was like, boobs.
It occurred to me. It was very exciting. It was the first actor idea I had. What was your experience? This is the first time hearing about it. That's so funny. Oh my God. No, I remember when you did that. I was like, way to go. I was super down. It was great. I was always a little more gun shy. Maybe not always. I got out of it more, but I was more gun shy from the beginning because I am queer and because I know that she's not. And there was a part of me that was having trouble
Yeah, I wanted to be respectful, basically, was what it was. So I was having a little bit of trouble, like, separating, you know, the actor from the character, and like, I think a bunch of you probably know this story, because I've told it 1,000 times. But just that, like, when we first got cast, we went to Washington Square Park together, and, like good theater kids, and read through our scenes. That never happened. Yeah. We had notebooks, writing things down. Yeah, it was great. And I was like, just so you know, I'm not coming on to you when we do things, you know, and she's like, good, it's totally fine. So it's like completely me, and I like, that's such like a leftover teenage thing of like coming out in high school and having other girls know, and being in the locker room and like wanting to just stare at the floor because I like desperately don't want somebody to think that I'm like coming on to them, or, you know, it's like, it's so funny how much that fear like follows you, but Rachael is wonderful, and by the end I was like, yeah, let's make out. So.
Oh man, like, I have like a list of things on the show, but now I kind of just want to hear, do you guys have any other interesting stories? From behind the scenes. Yes, I can hear you.
Because I remember, I feel like at the end of season 2, I had the kiss with Jessie. I had the kiss with Sophie. And I feel like we were shooting something else, and I realized that you and Jessie had talked about kissing me. And I'm just like, first of all, that's horrifying. Secondly, what was that conversation like?
I'm not gonna lie to you, I think I probably smoked this conversation away sometime in my life. Like, I don't actually remember it, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't remember that conversation, but I'm sure that it went something like, you have very nice lips. Because she does. So, no, I don't know. I mean, there was, I'm sure we both always tasted like coffee, actually. That was real. No, I think, honestly, we were like, you said in the beginning, we were all like such a little family that I'm sure that we were just like fucking around with each other and being silly about it. So, yeah.
I remember, I think Jessie Hodges is wonderful. She really was one of our last people that we cast, and I really searched her out. I was looking, like, going through backstage looking for actors, and I saw her, and I'm like, oh, let's get her in here. And she was wonderful. But I remember Jessie telling me that, I think it was part of probably that one video that we had online, that Jessie said the one thing about thinking about kissing you is kissing somebody that's like 5 inches shorter than her or something. that was the only thing.
That probably was the conversation.
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah.
I go like this and just.
Since we did bring up the infamous kiss, when you guys, okay, I still got some feelings about that. But when you guys, when it was online, it was posted online, we'll change that. You guys were filming it, did you realize the dumpster fire that was going to happen amongst the fandom afterwards? On both parts, actually, on Vivian kissing Sophie, and then Aster kissing the little person who became known as CLD, and aka person we don't speak about, in the hallway. She was a nice person. Like, no. In the fandom, I just remember seeing, like, on online forums, it was like, there's no. Wait, what's CLD? Oh, I don't know if I can say it. Okay, okay, well, sorry. Like, on the,
Figure out this. I got it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can say it.
Oh, that's
can I say
right.
it? Because some people can say it. Okay, it's like.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Cutest little, and I don't know, depending on if you're okay with certain words in the room. And then it was mostly because she said it, like you said in the show, and then it became like her name, like so. Because at the beginning we didn't know her name.
Amy Jackson Lewis is
yeah, Amy. So Jamie, she was really adorable, but that doesn't excuse your behavior. So when you were filming it, did you know that it was gonna? I mean, like clearly it's like a clash, and we knew it was gonna be a breakup of our beloved couple. But did you know it was going to be as like strong of a fan reaction and it really was online, or did you just ignore it and pretend like it didn't happen? And that goes for all of you, because you started it.
I don't think I knew there was such a big, strong reaction. I think we were working in our own little bubble when was there? There was feelings? Well, there was certainly going to be, even from the get-go of the show, that Sophie was going to be a big part of Vivian's life up in Westchester, and that sooner or later, Vivian's crush when she was young, those feelings are going to come back in some place. Jamie, we just were like, heck, let's throw Jamie in the mix too. No. But again, kind of gave that episode like a double whammy, because there's kissing on stage, and then there's that one kiss with Jamie in the hall, which was heated. But it was very sad, because I remember when we were filming it even, I always felt bad every time we did a couple of them, and Rachael just looked so devastated, and I'm like, oh, sorry. Oh,
Do you want to story about them?
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that one. Okay, so we were shooting that, and it was hurtful. It was hurtful. There were some feelings.
Let me first one.
I know, that was honestly, all right, we will go into this later. But like, we were filming it outside this like gym or something where there was some type of like a town meeting happening, but we didn't know that was the case. And so like, we were filming. Oh my God. So we did like a couple of takes of this like very hurtful scene. And then there was like a bunch of people streaming out of like our shot, and we were like, okay, we gotta hold. So we went off to holding, and Tina's like, go off and sit by yourself, because I'm crying. And like, we're sitting there for like an hour, and I'm like crying. But I'm also not crying, because I'm not really upset, it's just physical at this point. And then I'm like, that was the first time I met Amy, and I was like trying to have a conversation with her while I was crying. It was really awkward. But we got through it.
Yeah, that was yeah, I think I knew that was going to cause a lot of controversy. But the thing that I was thinking about most was, so Amy is one of my best friends. I suggested her to you guys for that casting. We met in college, and she's a bestie of mine. So like, it was actually more me being like, okay, you're gonna kiss your best friend. You're gonna kiss your best friend. You're gonna kiss your best friend. And like both of us like going in for it and just going like real hard, because I think part of us were just like, we're gonna get it over with. It's great. It's great. I think she's beautiful. It's not that, but it's just we've always had like a chummy relationship. So that was more in my head. I was like, okay, I gotta set myself up for this, But it's funny because I actually like went back later and watched like when I saw you guys, like that whole like thing, and I remember watching it and being like, damn, I was really upset about that. Like I'm not phoning that shit in at all. So yeah, no, it's cool. It's really funny though, because like when people sometimes will do like a hashtag Team Sophie, I'm like, yeah. But and the last thing I'll say about it though is that from like a zoomed out standpoint, like as the actor, and as just a human being, I really appreciated that you guys wrote that in, and that they did break up, and that they had that, because like it's not realistic to like think that you're going to be with your high school girlfriend forever and ever. And sometimes that happens, and that's a beautiful thing. But like in this case, it felt much more real to life that they needed to split up and have their own journeys and come back to each other on their own terms with that experience under their belt. So like I was actually all for it from that standpoint. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, so speaking after the breakup, Astor went far to deal with her feelings. What was the decision behind her going to California? Like, she went real far, like, you live to the coast. To go to California instead of, like, just staying around New York and kind of just avoiding her, since she's only 20 minutes away. I mean, go to Jersey. Sorry, don't go to Jersey. So, what was the decision behind, like Astor going all the way across the country, and how did she miss that much school? What
Well, we kind of played it out as if it was the summer that she went off, and then she came back. I mean, part of it was dictated by Nicole moving to LA. So we thought, well, they're broken up. Why don't we go shoot part of the season in Los Angeles and really do this really separation of their lives? So I think it actually really worked out really well, and we had a great time in LA. And you didn't get to shoot at all in LA.
No, I got to.
Oh, for the music video you did. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, part of it was that. We always kind of knew they were going to be in separate worlds. But I also really loved shooting the difference, because if you look at the California stuff, it's very warm and bright. And then we go back to New York and it's very blue and cold. So it's kind of fun to play with those different worlds and seeing really the big differences between the two. And then getting to see Aster go off and kind of grow and figure out her own stuff, and then Vivian trying to figure her own things out. So being that far apart, I think, worked out.
So in the end, you guys, the last shot, well, one of the last things is you guys are back in the park. It looks like the same place you shot the very first scene. What was the decision behind going back to there? Was it trying to make, I'm not gonna answer this question actually, you. What was the decision behind going back to that original shot, and what was it like for you guys to wrap up the series, going back to the original place?
Well, I think because we started it there, we definitely felt like before we did the finale, we had a little bit of a break where we kind of really thought about what we wanted that finale to be. And I really wanted to get into Vivian and her mom's stuff, because she was never there, we never really talked about her, and I really wanted that to be a part of Vivian's growth as a person. I wanted to make sure that they're still continuing to grow. So Battery Park meant a lot to us. Obviously, it's what started the series, so we decided, well, it'd be kind of cool if we can end it there. And then kind of the funny difference is that when we shot the first scene in season 1, it was totally guerrilla style. We didn't have permits or anything, so we were filming, and then we had lookouts, and whenever anybody would see somebody, we were the camera would go, oh! And so we would duck out of the way, and then we would throw a jacket out. Good, yeah. And those two would just be sitting there chatting on that. Nothing happened, and so it was quite different. And then when we shot the finale, we obviously had full-on permits, and we were all good to go. And so we didn't, all crewed up, all was good. And so it was kind of really quite different in that way. But it was fun. It was great to kind of come for us to kind of come full circle.
Yeah, it was emotional. It was so fun. But yeah, it was, because it was, not only was it the last scene of the series, but it also was the last scene that we shot, and that doesn't always happen. And so it was, it was a big deal. And I was, there was a lot of crying and a lot of, festivities after, but it was, I don't know, it was a lovely sense of completion, I thought. I loved it. I was very happy with that decision.
Yeah, I concur. Everything. I mean, the first thing I was thinking is the guerrilla style shooting and how different that was by the end. But there was also something really beautiful about looking around at the full crew that we had and being wow, we really came this far, and this is amazing that we've been able to do this. And it was really emotional. That was also not a scene that was pushed. It was just because there's just so much feeling. And also, I went through a bunch of papers that I needed to file the other day, and I have the letter.
You shut up.
I stole it. I have it. I have not opened it. So maybe one day we'll have some champagne and we'll live stream opening that. That would be pretty cool. Oh yeah, all right, we're gonna do that. That's great. Watch it's gonna be blank. We're gonna be and then we'll all open it in the room. Oh, that would have been, how amazing would that be if I'd be I got it. Damn, I wish I had thought of that. No, it was really beautiful and very emotional. But it's funny because we say that that's the last scene of the series, but I realized that I actually think the last scene of the series is the last lost scene.
Okay. Well, I actually did have some questions about the last scene, but I just got told we have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to turn it over. 5 minutes? Yeah. No, it's not your fault. No, just make sure. So, since we only have a few minutes left, I want to turn it over to you guys, the audience. Do you guys have any questions? Because I love.
Not a question, but just thank you. Because y'all, like, literally, like, I come from a very Christian background, and so, like, my whole, any kind of confirmation or affirmation or, like, any kind of peace or, like, feelings that I was able to be okay with myself came from online. And not when first, when I remember, like, being in my room, like, hiding, like, with my headphones in, and, like, making sure my dad wasn't coming in the door, like, still just watching the videos. And like in the car, like, what are you watching that nothing? Because I just like being like emoting because it was so good, and then laughing, nothing. It's just
Right.
it's fine. On the way to church.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
And that was my church voice.
Anybody else have any questions? Right there? Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to know what happened with Archie.
Yeah, what happened to Archie?
What happened? I started working for Madonna.
Yeah.
So that pretty much what happened is that he was Madonna's personal trainer. And so she was very demanding. And there would be times where I'm like, oh, Josh may be talking to his management and that he has to be on set for this. And he's like, oh, no, Madonna wants to go to Paris. And Josh has to go. And I'm like, oh, we have a scene tomorrow morning. And so she always kind of took precedent. And so it made our lives a little hard. So we kind of had to I love Josh. He was great. It took us a while to cast Archibald, but he was absolutely perfect. And I totally understand you work for Madonna. What can you do? So that was really pretty much what happened to Archibald as he flew around the world working for Madonna.
I'm a little biased, but I might have picked Vivster over Madonna. Question right there? To those who can't hear her necessarily because she's in the front, she said, did they realize they're reaching people all over the world, not just necessarily like North America?
Oh,
I for sure.
Yeah, we learned that really quickly. We learned to Google Translate very quickly as well.
Oh, yes, also that, right. Oh, and yeah, I definitely sent you something at some point. I was like, could you translate this for me? Because she speaks Spanish. Yeah, no, that was like one of the most amazing things, actually, was realizing like the reach that we were having. And I remember talking to someone at the time and being like, I just got a message from Belgium. Like, what's going on? And like, actually, and I get a lot of messages still from the Philippines, a ton from the Philippines. And I'm like, I mean, really, like, there is not a continent sans Antarctica that, we don't know about those penguins, but like every other continent. I mean, it's absolutely amazing, and it speaks volumes not only to the quality of the show, but also just the reach of the internet and how much smaller the world is getting. And like, it's just so wonderful. And thank you for coming all the way from Spain.
Somebody over here, you had her hand, I'm sorry, Christy, right there.
Yeah. So like most people here, the show was really meaningful to me. So it's like so cool seeing you guys. And also 10 years ago, I was a teenager in Westchester, so it was like it's alternating.
That's amazing.
Maybe this could exist in real life. But I'm curious about. So at the very beginning, you guys were talking about how it was new to create a web series. And so I'm curious about kind of the thought process behind that and why you decided to make it a web series, like whether it was just out of necessity, whether you felt like the story that you were telling needed to be told on that platform, and kind of just like how you chose to pioneer it in that way.
Well, I think someone had suggested to me, I'd been working in film and I just wasn't getting where I wanted to go, and someone, Stephen Alexander, who helped really put this show together early on, had suggested to do a web series. I had never done anything episodic, so I'd already done film, so I really thought long and hard on it. First I was like, nobody watches anything but cats and toilets online. Why in the world would I make something for the web? I'm a filmmaker. But, you know, I started thinking about it, and I, you know, at the time, I was looking at shows, and I'm like, oh, well, I was a huge Buffy fan. I really loved that show. And so if I can make something that felt that, like, I would totally down with doing that. So it kind of just came out of that, and then I kind of came up with the idea and the kind of the thoughts of what kids in New York, the fact that there are teenagers now that at 9/11 were young, and they didn't really realize what New York was like back in before 9/11, and that they were living with all of the post 9/11 stuff without even realizing it was anything different. So that was kind of the jumping off point, and I really loved South of Nowhere. It was such a great show, and huge shout out to them because they were such an important show. They get overlooked, but they're really an important show, and I think overlooked by the bigger, not by us, but the bigger world. But and so I love that show, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe I can do this. So it kind of ended up being that way. And yeah, there was nothing going on the web. There were, but not nearly as it is now. And yes, we had to constantly explain what a web series was, constantly.
Next question, right here in front.
What are you guys working on now? Anything that we can look forward to?
Start this way.
Oh, okay. Let's see, I guess I'll just reiterate what I said yesterday at the LGBT actresses panel. What did I say? Oh yeah, I have a short film that's going to be released July 4th. That's at least the plan right now. It's on the festival circuit, so you guys will all see when I post it online. It's very different from what you've seen me do. I play a wife and a mother because that's the age that I'm at now. So that's cool. No, it's all good. I like kids. It's okay. And then I'm actually doing a play in LA, so if any of you are LA natives or are nearby, I would love to see you there. That'll be in September. We go into rehearsals in August, and we will just start fundraising for that because it's kind of a big undertaking in June, and we're doing something kind of, I don't know if I want to say revolutionary because I don't know if this might have been done before, but in the fundraising process, if you buy a certain, if you donate a certain amount, which will be the price of like a regular admission ticket, and you can't make it, you'll get a private link to the whole thing. So we're filming it like a film. So that's cool. So I'm really excited about that. That's called Time Stand Still. So there's that, and then I'm starting a podcast. For those of you who don't know, I have a YouTube channel. Rachael was on it recently. We did get a little drunk. And I realized that on that, I'm going to keep up the YouTube channel, but on that channel, as I keep doing interviews and enjoying them so much, I'm running them much more like podcasts, and I'm such a podcast person that it just felt like a natural leap for me, so I'm starting one with my friend Lauren Flams, who is a hilarious comedian, and it's all about coming out. So we'll have guests on every week, and yeah, you guys should tune in.
I do have a short film that I did with my fiance over there. That'll be online soon. And I am sort of have a first draft of a short film that I'm also developing into a series, and I'm in negotiations to get the rights for the novel that it's based on. But it's awesome. It's sci-fi and steampunk and LGBTQ. So look out for that. And yes. You joke, but seriously. Can you work for free? And then I believe I am getting married at some point, and we're driving across the country, and hopefully vlogging and posting and doing some stuff around that, so you guys can, if you're interested, watch us as we go through, Wisconsin and yeah.
I am in the middle of developing another teen show for television. Kind of the most popular girl in school falling for the girl from the other side of the tracks. So keep a lookout.
Okay, unfortunately, everyone, I'm getting like a little signal. Oh,
those out.
Gives.
Dips.
We can't do this. I'll give, after we'll figure out how to give them out, because I already have a couple people already figured out. Ask a question about the show? Oh, trivia question real quick? Oh, I'm getting not the happy lunch.
What's Vivian's last name?
Oh, that's a good question.
No.
Vivian's last name.
Vivian's last name.
All the way back, you have the answer. And I'm really getting like not happy. Asher's last name? Anybody know Asher's last name?
It was said very.
Yes.
Alright.
Okay. No.
Name of the therapist.
Oh, yeah. Name of the therapist and bonus points if you know the actor's name. Because I do.
Actress who played the therapist.
She was also in Gilmore Girls. And How to Get Away with Murder. And she's a producer and a director. She's awesome.
So, where at the end of season 1, the finale of season 1, where did Aster and Vivian meet up?